Go ahead and call this meeting to order for the Board of Trustees for the Natrona County Parks and Recreation System. Start out with roll call. Each trustee will just call your name out.
Millen here.
Dallas Laird present.
Casey Coates present.
Peter Nicolason.
And Dave North. Y'all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance. United States of America.
All right. Start out with approval of the minutes from the April 10th meeting. Have a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by trustee Milne, seconded by trustee Coates. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? So moved. All right. Reports.
All right, thank you trustees for having me tonight. I have a fairly simple report. I'll start off with Rotary Park. The Parks Department's been working with Rotary, Whedon Pest, and some interested citizens that brought forth the idea of maybe having some educational signs at Rotary Park, geological signs, ecological signs, and improving the wayfinding signs. Currently we have, I think, 23 wayfinding signs that have large maps and whatnot. Those will be reduced to about 10, and then there'll be simpler arrow signs saying continue on the bridle trail this way, or the west loop is this way. Simplifies navigation through there. The geological signs are gonna be on, I don't know how we call the trail, but I call it the staircase. It's by the upper bridge near the falls. And I think there's 3 or 4 signs there that go up to the viewing decks, and they will describe the process of how the falls were made, the lichen, how it grows and what it does, and just the nature of the geology in the area. This came about, I think Joanne Theobald was the one that kind of inspired that. And then we are looking at doing some additional maps closer to the parking lots so that people can navigate their way easier from where they get out of their cars. There'll probably be 2 of those. I have a couple of, I have about 8 kiosk cabinets that are not being used, so we're planning on maybe using 2 of those versus doing full metal signs with vinyl. That way we can put some additional information if there's trail damage in there or things of that sort, and some of the rules like we have at the lakes. The wayfinding signs have been printed. I believe they're getting.
I think your mic quit working, right? Yeah, I don't know why they've been doing that. We've had problems with them lately. Yeah.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rotary's having an event up there this Saturday to do some maintenance and take down the current signs so we can use those aluminum plates for the new signs. And we should have the new signs up before Memorial Day. That's been going on. The group's been meeting over the course of the last year. I've been involved in all those meetings. And I think it'll be a good product up there. Are there any questions about Rotary Park?
Chairman. Michael, are you going to be, or you or your staff going to be up there while they're messing around with that stuff?
I don't believe so. I didn't plan on it. I have some obligations Saturday. I haven't checked with my staff, but Rotary usually, I mean, what they're planning on is like trash cleanup and maybe trimming some limbs and then remove.
The only reason I ask is that, the weather's supposed to be really hot, fairly warm, especially since we just had snow the other day. Now it's gonna be 85 degrees. You might reach out to Rotary and just remind them that, they need to take water up there and make sure everybody
Okay.
stays hydrated and safe.
I will inform them in the morning that they need to make, bring the appropriate stuff for the weather. Okay. Move on to Hell's Half Acre. This is another collaborative effort that Parks has been working on with Visit Casper. I'm sure many of you are aware of it. There's been a group of citizens involved with it too. So Visit Casper received grants to fund this project, so there's really no funding coming out of the parks budget at this time. So they're managing the grants. So basically, if like Road and Bridge is going to do some graveling and grading, Visit Casper will reimburse Road and Bridge for the gravel purchase out there. And then, so with that, Road and Bridge has completed the locates out there and they're scheduling time to do the grading and graveling work. This is, they're waiting on finishing up some other projects, and then obviously the weather. So we're kind of fitting into their schedule. I met with a contractor and an engineer out there about the proposed boardwalk construction that's planned, and a proposed viewing deck. Again, this is provided by grant funds. We have a preliminary profile for the dirt work that, while Road and Bridge has equipment out there, they can knock down some of the dirt, so the boardwalk has a more level construction plan. The engineers designed the viewing deck at the end of it, which is out past the fence. And I think the finished floor elevation is around 6 feet above ground, so it'll be a nice viewing deck for people to see and get a better vantage point instead of looking through the chain link fencing. This contractor also has plans, if the funds are available, to remove some of the chain link fencing, cut the post down shorter, and put in like cedar type fencing throughout there around the perimeter, so that it's a more aesthetically pleasing, easier to look over the top of it. Probably a 4-foot top rail on that. I don't have final designs on that, but we are moving along, and hopefully by the end of the summer we'll have all of this improved. The picnic shelters will be available for use with tables and trash cans, and we also have in the grant funding for a single stall outhouse over by the picnic shelters. I designed that to keep that over there so that seasonally when we close it, the outhouse isn't accessible, and when the highway department continually closes the Altman rest area, we don't want to upset our system with the huge population there. So, and then on May 14th, I will be out there. I'm going to meet with a middle school from Pavilion, Wyoming. They want to do a field trip out there. I think they've contacted the Wyoming Geologic Society to see if they can get somebody as a guide to tell them what it's all about. But if conditions are okay, I will open up the access to the old road so the kids can walk down in the bottom and see things. There's been a lot of interest for that access to the bottom to take photos or whatnot. So that's where that stands. Any questions on Hell's Half Acre?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Michael, I think I heard you say that the work is for the boardwalk and the viewing deck, hope to be completed by the end of the summer. Is that end of August, end of September, or is it a little bit fuzzy?
I don't have a definite date. Visit Casper's been doing the work with the contractor and getting a contract with them. I know they'd like to get started sooner than later. I believe they're kind of, from what Visit Casper says, they're waiting for Road and Bridge to get their work finish there, but
Are they under contract with the contractor? Is it signed?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Would you find out for me? And then if there's a completion deadline, I'd like to know what that is so we can kind of be thinking about that. If I heard you right, my second observation is if you remove the chain link fence, which I think is 6 foot, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
at least part of it. If you replace it with 4 foot, I think just about anybody could get over that. And so can you talk to me about that? Because I think we still, because it's unguarded, unmanned, and it's a ways out there, I think we still have some of these vandalism and artifact concerns.
So, this group's met with the Trona County Historic Preservation Commission, and they've stated concerns about looting. There is access through state lands and BLM lands in the bottom. There's easy access to basically walk over the highway right-of-way fence and walk down in there. Some of those folks don't agree with my thought is if we have higher visitation, there's less likely of looting. Looting's been happening ever since it's been there. When you look at the cultural report, since this is a public meeting, let me put it this way. Most of the artifacts in that report are located elsewhere. There are artifacts down there. But I feel like, with public view, and the other point is they've already peeled back the chain link fence, and they continually do it. We repair it and they open it back up so they can have access out onto that point for a better view or access down into the bottom. From a safety standpoint, trying to get down there from the parking lot is much more difficult. Our intent is to put a cattle guard at the entry point to the picnic shelters and then put a gate there that we can lock and put a pedestrian gate out on, I guess it would be the south end, and provide access down to the old road bed so there's a safe access point to go down in there.
Let me stop you there. So I appreciate the additional information, but just so we can keep going, because I know we have a number of things to hear from you on tonight. As a commissioner, certainly I was hearing from you comments over the last year or so when we start talking about Hell's Half Acre, that the security and vandalism and some things like that were an issue. Now what I'm hearing is you're telling me as a Parks Board trustee, which hopefully I won't be too long, that this is the way it's going to be and here are the reasons why. I'm hearing more like your justification for something that's already been kind of decided. So if I were going to be a Parks Board trustee member, I would certainly hope that there's more of a dialogue and a discussion and then a decision that's made in conjunction and coordination with your Parks Board trustees, rather than just saying, this is what they're going to do over at Visit Casper, and the contractor may or may not if there's money, and here's what it's going to be. I don't like hearing it as a commissioner, and I don't like hearing it presented this way as a trustee.
Okay, let me clarify that a little bit on how this is working with Visit Casper.
I don't think I need that. I think it's more just kind of the delivery of the message of we're not worried about security anymore because there's other access and people can jump the highway right-of-way fence. I think that's a conversation, not a report.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else about Hell's Half Acre? I'll move on to Casper Mountain. I've been conducting some interviews to fill the lodge caretaker position. This is a new position we created with the building. It is a full-time position, Wednesday through Sunday. It is not solely for just the lodge building and the surrounding area and just checking trail passes and selling trail passes. and helping with reservations of the building. This individual will, in the summertime, assist with our campground caretaking, assist with people that have questions on reservations, assist with basically the overall care of our mountain facilities, and assist in times with the maintenance department. Our previous individual assisted in plowing the parking lot while our other maintenance staff was out grooming. So it's kind of a catch-all position. You know, do what they can, make sure the lodge is open, make sure it's clean, make sure it's operational, but as well attend to our other facilities, because it is not an 8-hour a day job to make sure that building's running and making sure there's toilet paper in all the stalls. That takes an hour or two, and then they can go out and, you know, check trail conditions. They can check trail passes at different locations. They can plow snow. They can assist maintenance with, you know, minor work and whatnot. So I've been talking with 2 individuals. I have an interview tomorrow with a 3rd individual, and just trying to find the right fit. For one, this job requires you to work Saturdays and Sundays, because that's when we have the mass of the public there. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. I'm still working on hiring a seasonal caretaker for the mountain as well, to take care of our campgrounds. We've had an individual that worked for us for the last several seasons. He's unable to come back, so we're starting fresh there. Maintenance staff has been servicing the equipment, servicing the snowcats, getting those ready, put up in storage and have them ready for next year. This is a standard thing that we do in the springtime. They've also been preparing for the camping season by, we've been plowing out campgrounds the last couple of days, trying to get those to dry out a little bit more. They assisted with slash pile, checking on it, making sure that, you know, it's still smoldering from when they burned it. And, you know, just overall, mostly equipment maintenance right now, while the ground is still wet and there's still quite a bit of snow in places, but we're getting there. The trails are starting to clean out. I believe they plowed out Struby Loop and Bear Trap, and I think tomorrow they might try and plow out Tower Hill. So we're getting there. We are currently correcting a water quality issue at the lodge. This is due to some chlorinator pump problems, but we're getting those corrected, and we should have that chlorinator pump back in. The EPA did not require the lodge to be shut down, but due to low volume of personnel or people visiting it, mostly because the parking lot is very muddy and pretty inaccessible, it's drying out quite a bit. I've had the building locked, so we don't have any concerns about anybody getting ill from the water. It's not at that level, but without the chlorinator process, we need to take precautions, and we should have that up and running within probably next week. I think that's all. Oh, the only other thing I have on the mountain is in the budget, the commissioners requested to not ask for additional, but I did put a line item requesting funding for replacing the archery targets. I got a proposal from the Lost Arrow Archers last year. It was about $62,000 for the targets and the installation, the rebar, the framing, everything needed for that. And so I requested $70,000 for that. I am also pursuing a Wyoming Sportsman's Group fund to see if I can get some funds from them to help pay for that and offset the cost to the county. With that, that's everything I have for Casper Mountain. Are there any questions on Casper Mountain?
Question. I just have a comment quickly. Have you considered one of the suggestions I made about getting cameras installed so that might be a deterrent for people who are causing problems in certain areas up there?
I have not. had the time to look into the cameras. I do want to discuss that with the attorney's office, the county legal office. As for, I don't know what the required retention of photography and video is. I know that's been brought up in the past. And I just want to make sure that if we do that, we're following the legal process on
Well, I don't
retention
think
of those.
that would prevent you finding out costs and stuff like that too, so we could get a little heads up for this budget issue. I just like to know what the cost is and if any of the other commissioners are interested in doing it, and I think your idea to check with legal is a good one. I'd like you to put it together a little faster than maybe it would go if you're waiting for a legal opinion when we may not be able to get to that for a while. But we could sure find out costs and ideas and what kind of cameras. I think you could find that out pretty quickly, really. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Michael, a couple of questions. So it seems that while we have had a little more moisture a little later in the spring than is normal, I don't think it's been that atypical. And so I'm wondering on the parking lot, because I was thinking we were going to have kind of a March and part of April soft season where we couldn't use it. And if we're looking at what might be closing in on 3 months, are we going to have a conversation, or are you with the Parks Board trustees going to have a conversation about whether we need to have maybe some more material or look at that a little differently?
So yes, I put in the proposed budget funding for additional road base, approximately 3 inches. I've been working with my staff. When it dried out, they went in there and cleaned up some of the ruts and tried to channel some of the water in a better manner. So we have some ideas of where we can cut a shallow V ditch to direct that water in a better manner versus sheeting across the whole area to improve drainage and improve it drying out. We'll have the subcontractors going to be up there Tuesday. On Monday morning, I was up there and I noticed some settling along the water line that goes underneath the sidewalk. They have a plan, the contractor has a plan to repair that. So they will be up there Tuesday before the weather comes in so we can repair that.
What's the estimated cost for the material and the placement of that 3 inch?
It's approximately $10,000.
So that's not for the whole parking lot.
No, that is. That's for the material, and I believe that's for the material and delivery cost. As for the grading of that material, I was hoping to coordinate with Road and Bridge and see if they could assist us in spreading that material out.
Okay, well, that doesn't sound like that much money to me, so I'm pleasantly surprised. Do we have a date for the open house regarding the lodge? And did the plaque for the fireplace get coordinated with the what was it, Casper Mountain Ski Club folks?
So as for the open house, I do not have a set date for that. Some folks have discussed doing that in coordination with a mountain bike racing event. I'm not sure when that'll happen. I haven't had a chance to kind of really coordinate that and see what it looks like. I've had discussions with individuals that are interested in being a part of it, kind of making it a mountain-wide part. I've had thoughts about this open house could have some of our partners and some of the other groups that are involved on the mountain. Lost Arrow Archers could be there. The Snow Gypsies could be there. Casper Mountain Biathlon Club could be there. Central Wyoming Trail Alliance, they could all be there. Not necessarily to present what they do, but be available as a whole group, as this grand opening. This is what we have on this mountain, and this is how we are improving those things. So that's one idea.
Mr. Mill.
Honestly, Michael, why not make it so that they can promote, have tents or whatever, so that people from, down here, the people that are moving in or even locals that haven't been around, going up there and don't know what's available for clubs, have an opportunity to see what clubs are available and how to get involved. I mean, that sounds like a perfect opportunity for
Okay.
anything up there, the archery, the, you know, the gypsies, the whoever who wants to participate. It just sounds like a really, you know, it could be a good thing to try to promote more recreational activities up there for the people.
Yeah, and I think some of the groups that volunteer up there, I think they're, I haven't confirmed with them yet, but I think they may be willing to donate raffle type items. I spoke with Tracy to make sure that, you know, how the county parks could do that, and we're not planning on purchasing anything, but doing, you know, drawings for people that are there that, for
Get a
Ski
couple
pa-
food
ski
trucks up there, just make
passes.
a party.
camping reservations, you know, maybe a special 4th of July permit for bear trap, for that weekend to camp that, you know, and we'll draw names. You know, if people put them in that specific raffle, we'll draw a name for that, type of item. So those are some of the ideas we have for that event. We just don't have a scheduled date yet. With that, did I mention the settling that was going on in the parking lot? Okay, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Are there any other questions for Mountain?
What about the fireplace plaque?
Oh, yes, the fireplace pack. I've been in contact with that group. I have yet to receive the list of names from them to determine the size of the plaque, the type of the plaque. I've been in touch with the sign company that did the dedication plaque. They have a less expensive option of material that's still fairly high quality to do that. I think it's, instead of brass, I think it's aluminum. And one of the gentlemen from the Nordic Club asked for the sign company's contact information. I provided that to him, but I've yet to get enough information to get pricing on the plaque because I don't know how many names are going to be on that plaque.
Okay. Finally, with respect to that plaque, we axed or nixed the fireplace. People stepped up, and as a community, it was overwhelming that we were going to have a fireplace, and they put their money where their mouth is. So I don't want to be cheap and say, let's say $500. I want to do it right. So just, that's my 2 cents.
And with that manner, the dedication plaque, which I believe everybody's probably seen, that was $1,600. So I was really surprised. I thought it would be more than that. So we can do something similar for sure. I'm just waiting to get the information to get a price point as to what it will be and how long it'll take.
Just to add on to that, please make sure you get everybody's names.
Well,
If we're going to print their name on the plaque.
Yeah, from my
Leave somebody
understanding
off.
is some of them don't want the recognition on the plaque. So I think the club is trying to go through that and find out who wants their name on it and who doesn't. I mean, I would love to have everybody's name on there that donated. I think it was a worthwhile cause. The community stepped up. I totally agree with Trustee Nicolation on that. Okay, out at the reservoirs, the Cottonwood Dinosaur Trail is in need of repair. The school district uses it quite a bit. There's a bridge that needs replaced on that. There's trail work that needs done. Signs need to be reset as they've eroded out the bases of them. I have a CWTA has been working with me. They've been shown an interest into helping us with that. They have trail building skills that my staff does not. And they have been provided funding to do the work. So again, that collaborative effort's helping parks out with funding and technical assistance and actually having people on the ground do the work. Last time I spoke with CWTA, they're scheduled to do that repair this fall. They may get to it sooner, but yeah, they're expanding from just mountain bike trails into other trails and really helping parks out quite a bit. The lot rent payments are coming in every day. The due date for lot rent for cabins and trailers and clubs and marinas is May 19th. So we've been doing a concerted effort over the last 3 years to get those payments in on time. Last year currently we have one outstanding that didn't pay last year. I believe their plan is to sell it, and they'll pay that as well as catch up on this year. So we've been in communication with them. So I haven't sent that to legal for collections or anything. I try to work with the members out there on this. But I know in the past, before I got here, partial payments would roll in between May and December, and I really want to have all of those funds collected before the next fiscal year, so we have a solid understanding of what our revenue is and the funds that we have to work with. The informational kiosks we have at almost all of our campgrounds out there. We've installed new plexiglass and backer board, and we're in the final stages of updating the information that goes in that. We have new maps printed. We'll be getting those laminated next week. We have new sections of rules that are based off the recently approved rules that are laminated that go in there. We have some of the aquatic invasive species from the Game and Fish, that information. We have those printed and laminated, so that'll go in there. So we have a standard layout that we built, so map size is the same, location for AIS, location for rules, all of it's standard and laid out, so staff can just, go around and get that installed. We should have all of that'll be installed before Memorial Day. Both the old bathhouse and new bathhouse are open and operational. The water system's operational out there. We currently have some sewer maintenance going on in the trailer park. We have a contractor out there doing some, it's called some kind of foam. I don't remember the name, but it helps dissolve the roots because we have a few areas with some root issues that we're taking care of. And then we have another issue out there. I'm waiting on the electrician to get out there. We have, at some point in time, an electrical wire was basically bored through our sewer line. And so we have the location of that from the camera, and we know where it's at. I just need to get an electrician out there to basically dig that up, reroute the electrical, and a plumber can patch the sewer line. We have the docks installed, the Pathfinder dock. I went out and helped the staff with the new dock. It's really a 4-man job for about half a day to get that off the dry land and back into the water and aligned correctly and winched down correctly and anchored. So we have that. All the other docks that we have that come in and out of the water have been installed. Cobra Reservoir's at the recreational level of 5,500 feet now, so all docks are available for use. And can't recall, but we had somebody commented about concerns about fishing off of boat ramp docks and how they can get in the way when you're trying to bring your boat in or launch it. So we've created some signs because we do have some courtesy docks, and I don't mind people fishing off of those, but at the boat launches, we're going to install some signs just saying no fishing on the docks there. It's in the rules, but we're just trying to get more information out to the public. I think that's the majority of it. I am working on, there's some concrete repair sidewalk sections that I'm trying to get in contact with the contractor to give me an estimate inside the trailer park. I have 3 sections or maybe 4 areas that need repaired for drip hazards due to the cracking. In the meantime, staff has gone out there this week with yellow paint and painted those up really bright so that those hazards are, people are made aware of those hazards, so we don't have anybody tripping accidentally.
Michael, two things. One, in the trailer park, you said you were looking for getting some idea of how much concrete we would have to repair for where it's been buckled and stuff
Yep.
like that. Can you give us an idea of about what that is and what we're looking at and how many trees that are gonna be associated
So
with that?
there's 3 trees that need to be removed. There's, each section is anywhere from 5 to 10 feet. There's one big section around a corner that's probably closer to 20 feet of concrete. So in total, we're looking at 40 feet of concrete sidewalk, but we need to get the trees cut down, the roots dug out, excavated, bedding put back in, and then the concrete poured.
You got an estimate budget as far as what that'll run?
I do not have a dollar amount yet. I've been trying to contact different concrete contractors and I have yet to get a response.
Okay. I know one of the items that you've had on your list the last few years is the cable bridge up at the dam, at Pathfinder Dam. And is the Bureau of Rec still wanting us to,
On the footbridge,
yeah, the footbridge?
so that's under the management agreement we have with Bureau Rec that we're responsible for that. In 21, 22, we had a structural engineer look at it that specializes in those. Wrote a very comprehensive report with very specific details on how to repair it. I've talked to 3 different contractors and none of them are interested in doing that work. I have called another contractor and haven't been able to talk with them about it. The problem with that footbridge is there's welding required, there's suspension of staff or workers underneath required, and everything has to be hauled in by hand. You can't get a piece of equipment there to drag your welder up there. You can't even drive a 4-wheeler close enough to, have your welder on the back. So whether they have 500-600 feet of lead from the parking lot or they manually dolly a welder up there to do the work. And that's where the struggle has been. I spoke with the footbridge company out of Douglas. I spoke with Ryman Corporation. I spoke with another one, and I have tried to contact the engineer. I left messages and emailed, and I get 0 response from him to see if he has a contractor that works in these types of situations. So that one's been a struggle to actually find somebody that can do the work. But I do have an engineer's report that's very, it specifies the type of bolt, the tension on the bolt, the bead of the weld, the thickness of the plate that needs there. So I have enough information to go out to bid. I could try that aspect, but first I wanted to see if there was even anybody in the area that does this work or is interested in it. And so far 3 are a no.
Will the Bureau of Rec let us do some temporary modifications to the trail that goes down to that footbridge so we can get the equipment down there? Have you broached that subject with them?
I have not, because the trail from the parking lot is basically weaves in and out of the bedrock, and so modification is very difficult.
Well, I know the one on the north side would be difficult, but the one on the south side would be a little bit more conducive, I would think, to come in that way.
I can speak with them about that.
Okay. Well, I know the one on the north side, you do have a lot of steps, you have a lot of bedrock and everything else, and you have that on the south side as well, but if I remember right, the approach is a lot.
Yeah, and I'm
more
not sure if
conducive to get some of that stuff in there.
I'm not sure if any of you gentlemen are aware of how this footbridge became part of the management agreement, but it used to be the Bureau Rec's responsibility. And then at some point, I think around 2016, probably when the management agreement was revised, it was included in that without the county parks doing due diligence on the condition of it. So it's kind of an inherited thing. It's a historic thing. It's not the original bridge. I think it was replaced in 96, maybe 95 from the history I see on it to this type of bridge. But it's in the historic location of where the original bridge was for the engineers camp to get across there. I believe that's all I have for tonight. I would entertain some questions and comments as to the future direction of the Parks Department, and if we're completely separating the Parks Department from the county like the airport is and the fairgrounds is, how that funding is going to work, how that transition is going to work for IT, computers, phones, cell phones, copiers, office space, all of that. I know there was a brief discussion in 2021, late 21, early 22 with the commissioners at that time. And departments provided estimates of what they thought that would cost. And at that point, the commissioners that sat there decided that we're not going to pursue that at this time. But I don't know if that's the direction that the Parks Department is going to go, to complete separation, or if it's going to be a department within the county like it has been for the last 30 years.
I've spoken with IT and some of the others, and I don't see it, a lot of this being an immediate transition, but a little bit over time so we can get everything in place. What was suggested by a couple of different individuals is have an MOU established with this board, so that we do have a time frame and a goal as far as that total separation goes. But as far as a definitive time, that's something that the BOCC will have to discuss as far as getting that, as far as the budgetary constraints and everything else. So that won't be this board's responsibility to set that time frame. It'll be the BOCC's
Okay.
to work on that, since they're the ones that are oversee that budgetary constraint.
Thank you. That's all I have for tonight. Unless there's further questions.
I don't see any public tonight.
If there are questions.
Yeah, any further questions? No. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Michael, I was looking at the website this afternoon. I think we need quite a few updates on that. It says advisory in a whole bunch of different places. It's got the advisory policies and procedures from May of 2023. It does not have our bylaws yet. I did see that it has the new rules. It also has the old rules. Maybe we're just leaving those on there for public to compare for the time being, which is fine. It doesn't have our certificate of, was it certificate of organization or certificate of election, whatever we sent down to the Secretary of State's office. So I just think that needs to be on your to-do list with working with IT if it's not already.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay. Since we don't have any public here tonight, we'll move on to trustee comments.
Yeah, let's see. trustee, put one hand on, take the other one off, right? As a trustee for the Parks Board, I think that we, as the trustee board, since with the ruling that Heather, or the interpretation that Heather gave us about board rules and whatnot, and how they go through the commissioners instead of through us, I believe that it would be in this board's interest to bring the membership up to 7 members rather than 5, and it help with if there is any recusals, if there's any, it spreads that experience around. While initially it may present more of a commissioner problem to do more interviews and get the people in place, I believe for this board it would be a better board at that point. So I would suggest that we, petition ourselves, petition the commissioners, request the commissioners to discuss and decide whether a 5-man or 5-person or a 7-person board would be in the best interest of this board. So it's just something to think about. I don't know, maybe somebody wants to move for make more comments on that or whatever, but yeah, I believe we should do that personally. Also get citizens on board a lot faster.
Mr. Laird?
I, just with respect to Mr. Mills' comments, I don't know whether it be good or not. What I would rather do is get the 5 people going and let them make a decision if they want to do that and they see the need for it, and then bring that to the commissioners. It could be more confusing to have 7 people on there right now that aren't up to speed than 5 getting themselves in a position of understanding. Most of our boards are 5, so I do see the underlying reason probably to get to 7, but I think we ought to leave it up to the board that we end up picking. See how they feel about it. Maybe they may want it, they may not want it. Just like to know if they're going to live with it, that they have some input in it. Other than that, is your budget done?
Yeah, it was turned into the county clerk, per the deadline.
How much is it over last year's budget?
No, there's a decrease. The mountain budget, I think, is a small decrease of around 1.7%. And I think the lake budget is a decrease of somewhere in the 6% range. I don't have those numbers with me.
Thank you. I'd like to ask if you have an opinion on whether it should be a 5-person board or a 7-person board.
Honestly, we're in new territory. I've been used to working with an advisory board. The county commissioners are 5. Like you said, most of the other boards are 5. But I really think that's up to the county commission to determine.
Well, I know it's up to us. I was just wondering what your opinion was, if you have one.
It could be good, or it could be too many cooks in the kitchen. I honestly don't know. It depends on the individuals that are seated on that board.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Nicolason?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, thanks for the presentation tonight. I guess I weigh in as a Parks Board trustee member that 7 would definitely be better than 5. And my reasoning for that is, as Commissioner Milne mentioned, there will be times when people need to recuse or abstain due to either conflicts or perceived conflicts. We had some extraordinary interviews of some extraordinary people. What was it, last week? And I think we're going to have, my understanding is we have 5 or 6 more candidates that we're going to need to interview, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. So there are many individuals that I think we could appoint right away. Now, am I suggesting that we rush to appoint 7 this month? No, I think there'd be a transition, and I think we've always talked about that. I think in addition, if you have 7 members, then if someone's out of town, if they just can't get drags themselves away from the lake, or the mountain, they're up there camping, whatever, it would leave enough people to weigh in on important matters. I think our parks are really diverse too. And I think that we're far more likely to have a well-represented board of citizens if we have 7 rather than 5. Now, my recollection after that there was great discussion when we were talking about the bylaws on whether it should be 5 or 7 or 9, and didn't we end up with it being not less than 5 and not more than 9? So I do think that's the Board of County Commissioners prerogative, and I think they're going to have 7 well-qualified candidates. If we go back to August of last year, we had 4 people, 4 county commissioners then acting at that meeting, which was an important meeting to get us underway so that we could pass rules. And this commission, other than Commissioner Coates, who didn't have the privilege of sitting on this board until January 8th. I was the person who abstained that allowed a 2-to-1 vote to appoint our chairman as chairman. And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I've made as a commissioner or as a Parks Board trustee for sure. I've talked to people who have applied that are considering whether they should continue with their application because of the perceived dysfunction of the 5 of us acting as Parks Board trustees. And I've talked to another person that they were reluctant to apply as a Parks Board trustee because they don't know what the transition's going to look like. So I think we all were hoping, and Commissioner Milne in particular was hoping in August, that we, after a month or so, would have bylaws and rules and have things done and could step out of the way. We've had lots of, I think, internal controversies, the 5 of us, and I look forward to getting off this board and letting the citizens serve. And I think that sentiment is shared. I know that sentiment is shared by 4 of the 5 of us, but the Chairman North, doesn't want to get off this board as quickly as some of us think that it should occur. I think that we should make it clear that I'm ready to get off the board as soon as possible, but I want to make sure that we have this thing set up right. And so I think we're in this tough spot where we have multiple interviewed candidates that we're ready to appoint, but we don't have our stuff together. And so we weren't even able to appoint any last week, even though we felt we were comfortable with at least 2 of them. So I hope that the commissioners who are serving as trustees can get off this thing as soon as possible. And I think certainly all of us should be off at the end of this current budget year. That's June 30th. We talked in January about the officers being, what should they be reelected at the beginning of the year like all the other boards? And in fact, that's stated in the policies and procedures of the board. Now, that was the advisory board, and it says the board will elect a chairman and other necessary officers at the first meeting of each calendar year. We didn't have that in front of us in January. We talked about it, but nobody had really looked at it. So whether it applies to this board, it, by the way, is still on our website, or whether it just was advisory, the point is that there was this tradition of January of every year. Now, what we decided on I believe, a 3-2 vote in January was that the current that the election would occur after one of these board members was termed out. And I believe, was it Commissioner Laird, that you're up for 1 year? So one of us has 1 year. And when I talked to the legal department about how they came up with who got what, they just said, Jared Holbrook told me specifically that they just came up with, they just plugged in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 next to each of our names. There was nothing more to it than that. In any event, one of us is off in August, and I think that would be a time for new officers unless we're already off, in which case that could happen in July. So I do feel that we're ready to get off. We got to do a few more interviews. We're ready to transition out other than Commissioner North. And I hope that he's able to bring himself to do that sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Mr. Coates?
So to start, thank you, Michael. You put a lot of work into this, and I really appreciate your attentiveness to the public, especially with the docs. That was stellar. So thank you for that. And thank you for taking care of the water system up on the mountain. That's a heavy lift, and I appreciate your work and effort in that. That's great. With respect to the Parks Board, just one of my favorite quotes out of any book that I've read is simply that concentrated power is not rendered harmless by the good intentions of those who created it. And I think that applies to the Parks Board itself, with the commissioners sitting as trustees. We were first and foremost elected to be county commissioners, not trustee members of the Parks Board. And its intention is for the public to be on that board, or this board. So I'll close in saying 5 or 7. You know, it's whatever the Parks Board, as it takes shape, sees its need. If its need is to grow in experience and to grow to serve the people best through their capacities, I would support 7 or 5. Thank you.
Going back, and it's on the record that our county attorney stated that the appointments will go until January, and that's when the elections will be. That is on the record. That was a legal opinion from our county attorney. So
I disagree with that, for the record.
I didn't ask your opinion, and you've already had your comment. So, like I said, we can go back and look at the record if you would like to, but that's what she said, and that is on the record, and that's on video. I do personally think that all of our boards currently have fire at 5, and I do believe that that's something that I think that's a good number, because it is. For one thing, the Parks Board at one time, the advisory board was more, it was up to 7 at one time, and they revised that number down because they couldn't get enough people to have a quorum large percent of the time. So they did reduce it to 5, and ever since they've always had a quorum. They also had to change some of the bylaws at that time, and that was a few years ago. But so personally, I think that 5 is a good number. Michael, I do appreciate you putting all this stuff together tonight, and I do agree that, you know, there's some transition stuff that we need to work on, that we need to look ahead at and find out just exactly what the easiest way is, so that the advisory board is set up for success and not failure. And that's one thing I want to make sure we do. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.